Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Good evening, everyone. It is November 13th at 6:30, and this is the regular monthly meeting of Fitchburg's Transportation and Transit Commission called to order. We have two excused absences for the secretary. Elizabeth and Margaret are not with us tonight. Everybody else is here. And there's nobody on Zoom. First item is entertain a motion to approve the submitted agenda.
So moved.
Second. It was close, but I'll give it to Rick.
Second by everyone.
Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, we have to be clear, we're working with the amended agenda. All in favor of approving as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Gabriella.
Second.
Thank you, Rick.
Now no one wants to.
That's right. This is there's collision detection, multiple access. All right. Any corrections or additions to the minutes from last month? Seeing none, all in favor of approving as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to the first agenda item, which is staff report. And just want to say, oops, wrong. My comment was going to be on the minutes and not the agenda. Go ahead.
Okay. So today we had a ribbon cutting ceremony. Some people in this room were there for Sign Road. That's fully open now, including all the paths, all the crossings, RRFBs, roundabout, new traffic signal, all that good stuff. Yep.
All the
a lot of paint on the road there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, happy to have gone through that one. And earlier this week at council, there was a $450,000 budget amendment approved for phase 3 of that project. That was kind of just an additional change order for that select crush material that I think I've talked about in these meetings. So, but yeah, with those two things, that project is pretty close to being completely wrapped up. We're just doing some punch list stuff. For STVGU projects, so these are
acronym, please.
State Surface Transportation Block Grant dash Urban is that acronym.
So this is our formula money from the feds that comes through WSDOT.
Yes. So staff applied for the Irish Lane resurfacing and adding on 5-foot paved shoulders to that road in the year 2030. The MPO Policy Board has recommended that project be funded at 64.25%. So that's $1.7 million worth of funding for a $2.6 million project.
Yay.
So just for some context, that project was actually the lowest scoring STBGU project in the MPO area, which is basically Dane County. It's really only being funded because of the MPO's goal to fund smaller projects. And another larger project was withdrawn that was applied for, otherwise we would have gotten less funding. So in the future, we'll basically apply for projects that have more pedestrian features, more bike features, stuff like that to increase our scores.
And so the paved shoulders helps it score better.
Yes, yep.
That's terrific.
Ross, is that about the amount we were expecting or hoping to get? I'm trying to remember.
Yes, that is the maximum. It's not the maximum. That is the normal amount of funding, that 64 to 65% range. I think the MPO can technically fund projects at a higher rate than that, but the state really likes them to stay at that 65-ish% range. So. And then for TAP grants, which is Transportation Alternatives Program, that's also kind of a subset of the STBG funding. We applied for the Traceway and Leopold Path project. That was the top ranked construction project in the TAP applications. That's going to be constructed in 2030, and we got 60% funding recommended for that. That's just because there were a couple more projects, so the overall percentage of funding was lower for all of the projects. So $760,000 in grant money, $500,000 local match for a $1.3 million project.
So that will that be the path that runs along Traceway and then along Post to Cannonball?
Correct. It will basically connect the fish hatchery path to the Cannonball path along Traceway and Post.
And it's a
Ready
CIP project.
Yep.
And that's on the side of the street of the hub.
Correct. Yep.
Which is good because that's the side that's less development.
Yes. Yeah. So any questions on those grant apps?
Congratulations, that's great grant writing,
Outstanding work.
or grant application.
Yeah. Thank KL for that. They helped out with those
Were
grant
you
apps.
fingerprints on that or just your colleagues?
Yeah, my colleagues.
Well, pass along our congratulations and gratitude.
If we looked at the mayor's current 10-year capital plan, would we see the balance of those projects in the capital plan in those years?
I would have to check how we put them in the CIP. Sometimes we, the way we write the CIP pages is that some of the funding is from a grant, and we don't have that grant yet, but we won't do the project unless we get the grant.
Right.
And sometimes we put a project in there fully funded by the city and then still apply for grants to try to reduce that amount. I don't remember how I wrote the CIP
Do we ever-
for these.
It's my understanding, I haven't been in government since we went to a 10-year CIP, but the second half of the CIP is not required to have detailed financing, or does it have estimates?
It still has estimates.
Okay, all right, and this probably was proposed in 2030 or a different year?
Both of these, Irish was originally proposed earlier and has been moved back to
get
accommodate
the
this
funding.
grant funding.
Yep.
I believe the Traceway Path project was always in 2029 or 2030.
And Rick, to your point, for Irish specifically, that project there's multiple parts of it. So if you're looking at the CIP for how much is Irish Lane going to cost us, there's the road part, there's the underground utilities part. So it's a little bit more complex than like $1 amount because it's technically multiple projects.
Because of different sources of funding, utility has to be separate.
Sure.
And We haven't mentioned it today, but just a reminder that one of these wonderful grants came from Safety Improvement Grant, I forget for Sayin Road.
Highway Safety Improvement Program.
Highway Safety Improvement. That was the reason that it didn't go till this year, so they could apply for the grant. Then they got the grant and got the 1.7 million.
Yep.
To help pay for that signalization of Sayin, South Sayin, and McCoy.
So moving on from that, there was a Perry Street public involvement meeting that is a City of Madison project. There are currently 3 proposed alternatives for that. Either a vehicle, bike, and pedestrian overpass, a vehicle, bike, and pedestrian underpass, or a bike and pedestrian bridge. And they talked a little bit in the meeting about not allowing cars on an overpass or underpass and just allowing buses as the vehicles, but that seemed a little less likely, I'll say, from that public involvement meeting. So Madison's Transportation Commission will be looking at that stuff on December 3rd. That project obviously impacts
Reconnecting America grant to cover the feasibility and engineering, or
it's a planning grant.
Planning grant. And that's really important to Fitchburg because that will connect to all of Northeast Fitchburg and provide a badly needed connection to the Park Street corridor, especially for bikes and peds. Because, bikes and peds can't go on Route 14. So that it's either Rimrock or there's a bike and pedestrian bridge between Southdale and East Badger Road. And then there's, Fish Hatchery, and then you're all the way to Cannonball Bridge. So that will be a huge improvement. I've been lobbying for that for like 15 years.
And then the Beltline PEL, Planning and Environmental Linkages Study, just published their summary report on the WISDOT website. I sent out an email with that link to everybody. There is a virtual public involvement meeting for that December 4th at 5:30. So that summary report has all of the various things they're looking at going forward into NEPA for, which is just, the next step in the planning process. So if anybody has any questions about that, we can look at that report.
So my takeaway was, don't try to look at it on your phone.
No, it's a pretty complicated, complex study.
I was involved with that back in the middle years. It's been a very long project. And they considered transit along the Beltline and rejected the idea as not being effective to reduce Beltline congestion. They are still stuck on flex lanes or additional lanes. And I don't like that part about it, but and the city passed a resolution objecting to any capacity expansion for automobiles. The thing I really do like about it is they call out for a number of reconnecting projects, badly needed crossing of the Beltline between Whitney Way and Gammon and Perry Street, and also crossing US 14 between Rolfsmeyer Road or Post Road and Southdale, which, there's a huge bottleneck there. They refer in the report to Madison's 2 isthmuses, the one that we all know about, and the other one that's between Mud Lake and Lake Monona, that Broadway and the Beltline go over, but Broadway stops, and so it's the Beltline or Meadowview. So that's a real bottleneck, and it would help.
Yeah. So unless there's any questions, that's what I've got for my staff report.
I just wanted to thank you for the Terravesa changes. So all of the yellow paint is down on the curbs along Lacey to help keep people from parking too close to the intersections, and that one stretch, the one block between MM and Brassica/Endive when you get into the neighborhood is now bike lane instead of parking lane. So fills the last gap in the bicycle network there, and also removes parking from the major entrance to the neighborhood. So A+, I think we'll have some happy folks in Terabassa.
And thank you, Russ.
Yeah, those signs just went up for that no parking, so we'll start enforcing those. We start enforcing them 2 weeks after they go up. The police department just leaves notes that says you can't park here anymore in that intervening 2-week period.
Ross, I did have one more thing, sorry, of course I did. I forgot to mention it at the ribbon cutting for Sain Road. There are still, if you're heading west on McCoy, and then you're heading north on South Sain, there's still the signs that say curve ahead.
You said west on
McCoy, so it's between the railroad tracks and the new part. There's still the sign that says, turn left.
The arrow.
Yes. And then there's the other one heading north on South Sain. I want to say it's south of the fire station, or north of the fire station, between West Clayton and the intersection.
I will look at those and see if we should take those down, which it sounds like we should.
It looks great though.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's gotta be a curve
Nice
somewhere
to
else in the city.
We have plenty of them. We can,
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Russ. All right, our first council agenda item is the transit plan. Let's have start out with a motion to recommend approval and then our discussion.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mariel. What is your staff report?
So I think we've talked about the transit plan a lot in here already. Everybody kind of knows the gist of it, but this is basically a 5-year plan that shows the proposed changes and goals of our transit network for the city. What you have in your packet is first a redlined version. So this is a red line from the previously adopted transit plan, the 2022 to 2027 one, into the 2025 to 2030 transit plan. So it shows everything that was deleted, changed. I think I turned off if I moved stuff because that got really crazy. But yeah, basically this will go to both TTC tonight and then Board of Public Works, and then it will go to council. And everything in this plan is basically a direction to staff to work towards these changes or kind of abide by these goals. So.
And no major changes from our previous draft that we commented on, right?
No, the two, really the only two changes, were adding in some language about the healthy neighborhoods. That was a request from our housing specialist. That's not our actual job title, I forget what that is, so I apologize. And then we added in, you'll see it in the route changes section, like kind of how difficult it will be to make this change and a cost, but just in like a 1 to 3 stars kind of way. Maybe I have to go to the full.
High, medium, low.
Yeah, so priority and then cost, high, medium, low is how we did it. So just as a way for staff to kind of be able to prioritize these things.
Do we have anything in there, remind me, on Nesbitt and Fitzrona?
Yes. Yes, here we go.
Very good. And the comp plan calls for this to be updated every year. Are we going to seek relief from that requirement? Because that seems excessive.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
I think this could be updated probably every 3 years is my feeling.
That seems about right.
So that will be changed in the upcoming comp plan, or proposed as a change in the upcoming comp plan.
Very good.
Which will be done next year.
Other discussion or questions?
So, if you go to the red line of the metrics chart,
this.
Yeah, the formatted. I know, I have to zoom and then zoom the other way. Line 4 says create a transportation demand management program. But I believe that we removed that as one of our goals. And yet we still have it as a metric, so we'll fail. Because we talked about that and whether we had the resources necessary to create the plan or require developers to submit a plan for us. There it is right there, so it's crossed out.
Planning department pushback on that.
Yes, so basically how I did this is we still have a TDM program to encourage employers and developers to make transit and other modes more convenient.
Okay.
But I deleted the specifics of the program, basically to give staff more freedom when we actually do create this. Because staff felt this was still a good goal.
Yeah.
To work
Good idea,
towards.
yeah.
It,
Will it be
may
on-
not get done in this 3 years until we update it again. This would be one of the more difficult ones, just because of how the city likes to develop and not put, some types of barriers on development, but I think it would still be good to work towards.
Would we be doing that in here, or would you be doing that and then presenting it to us?
I think it would most likely be developed by staff and then approved by commissions and council.
Or even consultants.
Right, yes, but when I say staff, yeah,
Mhm.
that could include a consultant.
But we
as
don't
well.
have to do the heavy lifting, we do the oversight.
Okay.
And represent community values. Other questions or
My only
discussion?
Comments on and it relates again to the metrics, was if we're doing what we're doing to 65, 75 expansion and all day, then what metric points to that rather large change to our transit system and expenditure?
What measures its success?
Right.
I think item 6, provide more direct routes between origins and destinations. I know it's not a new route, but you can use it at more times of the day, so I think that applies.
Ridership?
Ridership, and then I guess it's not one of these metrics, but the convenience part of that's one of our goals as well. I think that's a really big barrier to convenience, is the route you want not being available at all times of day, so you have to plan your trips.
Right. Well,
I can't get back on this route, so.
did you see ridership as one of the metrics in here?
No,
Yeah.
but I know that we're already measuring ridership.
Well, but that was sort of my point, is like, okay, so we expand the routes and the frequency of the routes, but we're, as far as metrics goes, perfectly happy if they're empty buses. Like, there isn't any goal that we've set around how many people will make use of the buses during these new times of the day.
Correct.
Just so we know whether we've succeeded or failed.
I don't know how it fits into this chart, but so we have what we call the red dot map, which basically shows boardings, and we use that to evaluate how important stops are. But it would be very interesting to compare and I assume that this data is available to Metro, compare a red dot map between peak times and off-peak times. And what we should expect to see is that when you provide off-peak service to these routes that have not had it, you will see obviously more people riding at that time, but you would also expect to see more people riding at peak times.
Sure.
Because they can return at a flexible time or go at a flexible time.
Yeah.
Or even just, they're more interested in using the bus because the bus is more
Yeah.
Even if they take it only at peak times.
Right. Well, and that's why, I know we're gonna talk about ridership for the Q3 and the upcoming agenda item, but I just thought, if we're able to regularly review ridership data, and we have that for the coming quarters with expanded routes, that we'd be able to look at that and then either say, we did what we had sought to do, or we're not getting anybody to ride the bus, but we're running them.
This is a referral draft and it's kind of
I realize
expected
it's-
to be in its final form.
It's hard
But
to
this
change
is
at this
something
point.
that staff could look into doing, even if it's not in this plan, right?
Yes, and I do want to make one point on ridership as a goal or a metric for measuring a transit system. It's definitely the easiest metric to measure the success of your system because it's easy to get the ridership data. But in my opinion, it should be a goal for the city to provide transit, even if it's low ridership, as long as it's helping people, get to their jobs or stuff like that who wouldn't otherwise be able to. So I'm just saying there's definitely routes in the city that I think are valuable that have pretty low ridership.
It's a
that's
very
the-
long timeline too, because
Mhm.
I was just talking about housing yesterday with our housing specialist, and the fact that she didn't realize that the 65 is gonna be increased next year in service. And she was like, oh, that's gonna change the calculation for some developers in that area, because they're like, well, where's the bus service?
Yeah, sure.
And so that kind of long-term, that might play out over a decade or more, but that has a huge impact on the
People
city.
make decisions about where to live, every few years at a maximum.
That's,
Very
I think
hard
that
to-
exact sentence is in this plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very hard to measure that, but
I was quoting.
it's certainly going to have that effect.
There's the old argument about should we focus, and we went through this in the transit system redesign, should we focus on coverage or ridership? And I have always argued that that's a false choice. Both are important and we need to put more resources into transit. So I agree, Ross, that having important coverage in the city, especially in certain areas that are more transit dependent historically, is really important. And that's harder to measure.
And to Alder Gerhardt's point as well, I was talking to a developer who works in workforce housing, and having that quality transit service helps them get WIDA funding and other sources of funding. That's something that would bode well in their favor. So it's also an indirect benefit is some of the long-term benefits of helping support affordable and workforce housing.
But also I hope all these buses are full.
I know, I want them to be full too, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it could take years for that to happen. People change their behavior, it could take time.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting at this point that we try to make changes to this plan. I'm simply pointing out that we discuss decisions like expanding the service, and yet we make them without any quantitative goal. It feels good to do it, I guess.
Or plan to collect quantitative data.
Yes, yeah, so that's my point. And adjacent to that is the paratransit ridership as well. And have we, by doing this, improved people's ability to make use of paratransit? Will we see the paratransit numbers go up in the next 2, 3, 5 years?
I hope so.
Okay, well, staff has noted.
Just a couple of comments, just generally. Thanks for including the red line version. That's always very helpful when reviewing these plans. And overall, I think it's nice work. It's really exciting to see how much has happened in the last few years. So, and the fact that we're just past the budget where we're gonna have the funding to expand those routes is a really exciting place to be as we discuss this plan, because the money's there now. For not all of it, for much of it, so.
that's very exciting.
I just wanted to add, I'll continue to push for my little Hartung deviation on 65. So that's in there, which I appreciate being in the plan. I also yesterday was chatting with the executive director of Gigi's Playhouse, which is going right across the street from the Limerick, which is senior and workforce housing. Then obviously Uptown Hills, which is workforce housing, is going in there. So I've heard a lot of support from folks. And when I was talking to, it was Kelly yesterday from Gigi's Playhouse, she was saying that right now they're in Monona and they have volunteers from UW who take the bus, and there are also folks who use the services that Gigi's provides that are still, they're self-sufficient enough to still take the bus. So there would be benefits from their perspective for both volunteers reaching the facility, and then clients or patrons who also use the facility. So I've heard from Avante in Uptown, I've heard from developers in Hartung that they're for it, heard from residents at the Limerick that they're for it. So I'm just gonna continue to say this is not just a Logan thing in my wild harebrained schemes, but I've heard nothing but good things from that. So I appreciate that being in there, regardless of if it can happen in the next couple of years or not. I think it's a good goal, especially if Hartung is a transit-oriented development and there's no transit there currently. So.
It does remind me, with respect to that particular area, that the fact that we have B-cycle stations on East Sherrill and on Lacey at the Limerick help us for 9 months of the year. For folks who could ride bikes, allows them to get to the transit stations. And we should continue to think as a commission about where we need B-cycle stations to feed transit. Any other discussion? Questions for staff? Are we ready to vote? Okay, the motion was to recommend approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hopefully the council will approve it. That brings us to discussion items. Transit, third quarter transit data. Ross.
Yeah, so this is basically something I want to start doing at the meeting at quarterly in this commission, is presenting our transit data from Metro Transit. So I basically get this data from Metro every quarter, and then I put it into our Public Transit Assistance Program grant application. That's through WISDOT that we get that money. And this is everything they want to know about how our transit service is performing and where their money is going. So, and I think these metrics are good kind of comparables that we can kind of talk about. So I didn't include it in your packet, but I do have the 2024 data for comparison. So if you have any questions about that, I can kind of answer that.
We didn't have any of those things at the top 6 rows?
No reportable events, injuries, fatalities, denied rides.
Those are all bad things, right?
Correct.
Good.
So this is basically broken out into the fixed route stuff, that's the regular buses, and then the paratransit, which is on-demand service.
Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the quarters?
Yes. Yep. So January, I'm not going to say the quarters because I'm going to mess up as I go. But yeah, the big ones here are revenue trips in the fixed route, passenger revenue, operating expenses, and then revenue miles and hours. And then in paratransit, kind of same things, revenue trips, passenger revenue, revenue miles, and revenue hours. So happy to answer any questions on this.
So is this 65, 75, and B combined?
This is every bus route in Fitchburg.
Anything that goes through Fitchburg?
Yep.
And is it the entire route, or is it the that's in Fitchburg?
So this is the part that is in Fitchburg is the best way to describe it. So if someone gets on the bus in Fitchburg, it's recorded as a Fitchburg trip for like the revenue trips statistic. And then for paratransit, the way that is shown is the originating municipality and the ending municipality. It's a trip, or the miles and hours get split between those two municipalities. But I believe the trip is only the starting location.
Oh, okay. So it wouldn't be double counted. If you started in Fitchburg and ended up in Madison, there'd be just one and it would be Fitchburg.
One
Correct.
trip and the miles would be allocated.
Yep.
50%, even if it's not 50%.
Yeah. Well, and the miles are allocated by the bus. So it's, the bus, they know how many miles the buses drive in Fitchburg
Oh, okay,
versus
so they know
Madison.
where the
So, yeah.
about borders are.
So, I was gonna say, so if I'm looking at this as a layperson and saying, oh my gosh, why did revenue trips go way down from Q1 to Q2? I would tell somebody that that would be because it's winter and there are fewer options. I can't bike. No.
So the Q1 data for the revenue trips is from automatic passenger counters. So those are basically, I don't know what kind of sensor they are, but they count every person who gets on the bus. They're accurate to within 5%, Metro tells me, so they're pretty good. The Q2 and Q3 data is from the fare boxes. So if you tap your card or pay a different way, then you're counted in that Q2 and Q3 data. The reason that changed is basically Metro Transit was told that their automatic passenger counters are not verified by the National Transit database. So they had to switch back to the fare box data, which is less accurate, but is verified by the National Transit database. So yeah, one issue that Metro is having with the fare boxes is they're like not counting people even if it is swiping their card, because the fare boxes are all really old, basically, and they're trying to replace them. But
these are not the ones on the new BRT buses. They're the ones that are on the old conventional buses.
correct.
Okay.
All the buses have automatic passenger counters, but they don't all have the new fare boxes.
Okay. But that's a program that's underway to replace.
Correct.
So we think the Q1 is probably more accurate in terms of the number of trips then, or are we just somewhere in between the two? Or?
Yeah. Q1 should be the most accurate.
Okay.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if Madison included both the APC counters as well as the fare box counters, just to show us that, they still are counting the old way, even if it's not verified? So that you could see.
So I can request that data, since this is what I have to report to WISDOT.
Yeah.
They wanted to provide the data that WISDOT wants to see.
Yep.
Maybe the old data could be grayed out.
And then Metro is working on basically a website that we could log into and have better access to this data. Because right now I just have to ask them for whatever data we're interested in. So.
What would you like commissioners to provide feedback on, or is this just FYI?
This is more of an FYI. I guess if you're not interested in seeing this anymore, tell me that, and I won't show you. But
I think we should see it.
It'd be interesting to see the trends over time.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see how paratransit, especially, it already went up a lot.
Yeah.
Also, would it be beyond the realm of feasibility to get B-Cycle to report to us quarterly? It's not something that,
I think Phil has asked for that.
okay.
I'm not
So,
sure where that's at though.
right? If you could, because at least I regard B-cycle as part of our transit system, I think that this commission should be able to see those things. And if you could ask Phil, and I think quarterly would be a reasonable thing, especially if it's broken out by month. I think that would be important for B-cycle, and they do have that data because there are months then that they're not open.
All right.
Anything else on that? All right.
Will the website that they envision have the ability to look at specific routes? To just look at 65 or just look at B?
I don't know.
South Seminole Highway and Badger States Trail crash on October 7th. I asked that Ross bring this up for a discussion. I would like to have a crash analysis studio on a crash in Fitchburg, a serious or fatal crash. You'll recall that a crash analysis studio is an event in which you have experts, stakeholders, and neighbors convene and discuss all the factors that led to a crash or could lead to a crash in a particular troublesome stretch or intersection, as opposed to just assigning the proximal blame that police and insurance companies tend to do. So tell us what happened here.
Yeah, so basically in your packet, I included the official crash report that the Fitchburg police have to fill out for every crash. So all that official information is in there. I've also included kind of a less official summary that I think will be easier for us to talk about. So I will get that on my screen too and go through that. So this crash was at the Badger State Trail and South Seminole Highway. That's just south of the Seminole and Lacey roundabout. The speed limit here is 35 miles per hour. This crosswalk, it does not show on Google Street View if you looked at it there, but it is marked as a high visibility crosswalk with continental blocks. Basically, the Badger State Trail parallels Seminole Highway and then crosses over from one side to the other.
Suddenly.
Yes. And there are stop signs for the bike trail, and then there are bike crossing 375 feet ahead signs in both directions.
There are also crossing signs at the crosswalk, right?
Yes, there are these crossing signs at the crosswalk, and you can see the bike stop signs.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh. Sorry. There we go. So like I said, it does not show the crosswalk because this was taken before we painted it, but there is a high visibility continental block crosswalk here.
Yeah.
So, and then, sorry, I lost my spot in the agenda, so let me get back to that. So basically the car was driving southbound, bicyclist was also biking southbound. So in this image, we are looking northbound. So the car and the bike were both coming at the camera in this shot. The cyclist crossed the road in front of the car. The car collided with the cyclist. Cyclist was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, and the driver sustained minor injuries. So from the police report, the cyclist suddenly came out into the road, and the driver did not have time to stop. So that's kind of the information we have here.
Yeah, because of the relative speeds of bikes and cars, the car would have been overtaking the cyclist and out of the cyclist's point of view. One of the objectives of a crash analysis studio is to come up with mitigations for risk at the crash site and similar situations. And it appears that staff has already been working on such things. So let's hear about that.
Can we, is the bicyclist okay?
They were transported to the hospital with what were described as life-threatening injuries. I don't know anything past that.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
We lose track.
Yeah,
The,
we don't have any right to know because of.
Yeah, the crash reports tend to just have the immediate situation, and you never know what the final outcome is, whether they recover. So Sherry Maples never recovered, later died, but it's just shown as a serious injury in the crash report.
Oh, for this one?
Sherry Maples was the Cyene
Oh, the Cyene Road,
and
okay.
Capital City crash.
Okay.
So yeah, Steve, like you've been saying, staff has kind of looked at this kind of in a similar way as you would in a crash analysis studio. I think that's a good framework for looking at these things. So one thing that staff noticed is that the stop signs for bicyclists on the Badger State Trail are really not pointed where you can see them if you're coming down the trail, since you're coming parallel to the road, and then the stop signs are kind of at 45 degrees. So we're going to look at reorienting those stop signs in a way.
Let's see the other one, Ross, too. Zoom in.
I think the other one is kind of worse.
Yeah.
Because you can see it's more perpendicular to the road, so it's less in line with the path.
It's easy to read if you stop there.
If you know you're supposed to stop. So one thing we're going to look at is reorienting those stop signs to see if there's a better way to be able to see them on the path as you're approaching them, and then also changing these mini stop signs out to full-size stop signs. We're also going to add stop ahead signs on the Badger State Trail, just so if you're a cyclist coming up, you have a second chance to know that there's a stop sign there, a few hundred feet ahead of time.
Do we have pavement markings saying stop ahead like we do, for example, when we cross Lacey?
We don't have those on the Badger State Trail here. That was another thing I did. I guess there was a highway crossing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's on the other side. No, maybe it is.
There it is.
Okay. So there is highway crossing.
We might need to freshen those, though.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'll make a note of that.
Fresh paint always gets people's attention, although it doesn't stay fresh for very long.
Yeah. And then the other thing that staff is doing is filming some educational videos with FACTv and the police department. And Steve has already been kind enough to participate in one of those videos. So these will focus on the basically crosswalk laws and then also safety, which can be, either in line with what the law is or, a little bit separate for cyclists and pedestrians to basically keep yourself safe when you're crossing a road. And then we'll have a Talking Fitchburg that'll be more in-depth on these laws and safety. Basically, the first video is going to be kind of a easier to digest, post on social media type of thing.
Quick hitter.
Yes.
And Maggie was also out there. We did that Tuesday or yesterday, I can't remember.
Yeah, Tuesday. Yeah.
I think it was Tuesday.
And then also we're gonna look at how RRFBs work and how to use them. Obviously this intersection does not have an RRFB. Where's my mouse? But that is something that we see at some of the other crossings on Seminole Highway is a low activation rate for the RRFBs.
People tend to not activate them if there's no traffic around.
Yep.
Here
or
we
if
have.
they think there's no traffic.
Or they think there's no traffic. Here there is actually a visibility problem because you're traveling parallel and more slowly to the overtaking motor traffic, really in both directions. If you have crossed on the Badger at Lacey, you see that there's a median crossing island that attempts to direct path users or trail users to look at the traffic that they're about to cross by diverting them. I do know that one of the hopefully it's, yeah, that's the new one.
So you can see how it's offset to make you look, you're
And
walking
also
in the direction
ideally
of
slow
traffic.
you down.
Yeah.
But the red concrete is not raised to prevent you from crossing because you may want to cross the first lane and then turn left in either direction. And that would be, it's funny, they got Nichols Electric out there trying to get the things working.
We're building it, yeah.
And Sergeant, what's his name, Mike? Bicycle unit sergeant. Anyway, he noted he was going to bring back to you that some of these things are not working.
Yes.
Okay,
I've
you
been
got that.
working on that this week.
Okay, good. Anyway, another proven mitigation, which is I think more in the sort of $15,000 range, is a median safety island, so that you only have to cross one side at a time. And our exemplar is Cannonball at Seminole. And in addition to providing a place to wait for the traffic on the second crossing the other lane, it also has the advantage of deviates traffic so as to, and has a calming effect on the motor traffic. And now that has RRFBs. Oh yeah, they're shown there. Yep. So my original question to Ross was, do you think we should have a crash analysis studio for this? Again, the idea would be, it's a public engagement tool to get people to weigh in on all the causes. And I think that staff has done a super good job on this instead of just saying, oh, the cyclist didn't look and call it a day. Looking at the contributing factors. I would still like to have such a thing sometime. And one of the practices, best practice of a Vision Zero community, which we now are, would be to have one of these for every fatal accident and for as many of the serious ones as you can. But bringing people together and making meeting notices and stuff like that is not a cheap thing. We know that there's a lot of procedure around city government. Sometimes they're done privately. You know, like Fitchburg could organize a crash analysis studio and invite people, then it wouldn't be a city function. So that's another option.
When did this accident happen? Oh, you said it was on.
This was
This was
October
on-
7th.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a crash analysis studio would be most useful shortly after the event. When
No, they recommend you wait 6 months.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
because there's a lot of trauma around it, especially for witnesses and neighbors.
Okay.
But what they want you to do is be more clear-eyed about everything that could be contributing instead of like that idiot that rolled over on
Pembroke.
down by McKee Farms Park, who was texting and didn't stop, blew a stop sign and all that kind of stuff. You're supposed to put aside your rage about that, about the human mistakes that were involved, and start looking at engineering and infrastructure and statutes and things like that that contribute to it.
In other places that do this, like who typically attends these?
They typically get somebody like Ariel.
Yeah. Or like I mean like
or
like
Ross.
or us, but
And
but
they-
is the public is the general public engaging in something like that? Or is
Yes,
it-
yes, and so they tend to have them hybrid, and the
Online hybrid is what I mean, yeah.
online, yeah. The studio might be in person, something like this, but everybody could zoom in. And you wouldn't necessarily, it'd be more like a webinar where you wouldn't necessarily be able to have a dialogue if you weren't present, but you could probably submit comments. Strong Towns, which is the nonprofit based in Minnesota that's behind this particular thing that developed the thing, has done like 24 of them, including a couple in Madison that have all been recorded and are online on their website. And so you can go watch one. And they seem to be very effective. Strong Towns is a big proponent of this kind of bottom-up, make a little change that makes things better things. They're for going out and sitting in neighborhoods with clipboards and folding chairs and talking to people and stuff like that. And then you say, okay, what do we need to do? We need to plant a tree, or we need to paint this curb yellow. And low-cost things that make things a little better and do it again and again and again. So that's kind of their philosophy. We did convince the mayor to become a member. And you get a steady feed of these kinds of suggestions and so on. They're very active on social media and on the web, and they've got several books out. All right, so that's enough of an advertisement for them.
Can I
Go ahead.
ask a couple of things here? So first want to broaden out here a little bit. Ross, as part of the bike and ped plan, am I correct in saying that there was or is going to be some sort of policy or recommendations drafted as to how to determine which crossings to bike or ped with road to mark and how? I'm trying to think. I thought I remember something about that.
I'm not sure if that is in the bike and ped plan, but generally, so Public Works doesn't have like hard rules for what crosswalks to mark and what crosswalks to not mark. But generally, the busier the road and the more pedestrians, the more likely we are to mark that crosswalk. Low volume stuff in neighborhoods generally does not need to be marked. People are driving slower and pedestrians are able to pay more attention. But a crosswalk does exist anywhere that a sidewalk crosses a road. So all the legal protections of a pedestrian and right-of-way and stuff like that still exist no matter whether a crosswalk is marked or not.
I'm just thinking from a kind of a system standpoint. I think this is identified as a pretty big issue spot. But then are there others that could be in similar straits? And then do we say, well, let's mark all of these, or let's put RRFBs at all of these if they are a state trail or a county trail or something? They rise to that level versus like the neighborhood trail through Nannyberry Park outside my house. So
I believe that all of our state trail crossings are marked. If I'm wrong about that, they probably should be marked if there's one
Maybe
we're
not
missing.
Purcell or Adams.
Right, the very rural ones might not be. But for RRFBs, this is also not set in stone, but generally one of the metrics that I use when I'm evaluating an intersection for RRFBs is 20 pedestrians per hour over a 2-hour period. So you'd have to have 40 pedestrians in 2 hours, basically.
Okay.
And then there's other kind of warrants as well, but those aren't in Fitchburg ordinance or anything. Those are just, to kind of use for my engineering judgment.
If there's a lot of gaps in the traffic, then you're less likely to need RRFBs. If you're talking McKee Road, before the Badger Bridge went in, you know, then it was impossible to get a gap. And so it became, then we had RFBs there.
What, do we have any plans to investigate or potentially move kind of the one step beyond the RRFB, I just learned, you know, finally have RRFB down. I don't know what the next level, what they're called with the
Hybrid pedestrian beacon.
Yeah, or are those the ones that have the flashing reds and have the effect of a stoplight?
Yep.
Okay.
So Fitchburg does not have any plans to install any hawks right now. For a hawk beacon, you generally are, per the MUTCD, supposed to meet full traffic signal warrants.
Oh, okay.
Because it is a full traffic signal, it requires cars to stop. So for a hawk beacon, you would basically have to have a certain amount of pedestrians per hour. I think it's somewhere in the range of, bikes or pedestrians. It's somewhere in the range of double what I said with the 20 pedestrians per hour, I believe. So close to 40, I would have to look that up. And then there's volumes of cars per hour as well.
Okay.
And there's other stuff too, if it's close to a school or if there's a crash history, stuff like that.
Madison is pretty progressive with their bike infrastructure, and they have only one that I know of on East Mifflin Street, where the bicycle boulevard crosses. What is that one that goes into the hairball? One of those many streets that begin with B.
Blair Street.
Blair. Yeah.
Wilson Street, Blair.
Baldwin.
Yeah. Hawks are also much more expensive than RFBs.
Almost full signals, right?
RFBs are about 10 grand for just a 2-post with push buttons. Hawks kind of start out at 75 grand. Because you're generally getting into like a mast arm over the roadway that the signal is on and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot more barriers to putting those in.
With regard to classifying things, that will be the essence of Vision Zero, is to try to figure out where high-risk situations are. And even though we've had a crash at Seminole and the Badger, what other places are there that are similar to that we should be considering the same kind of mitigations? So we're headed in that direction. And when the safety plan comes out, that's when we will be trying to proactively implement that stuff, right? Any further discussion on this?
Simply
My question was, should we have a crash analysis studio? And Ross will be the one who will tell us that, you know, that's going to be a heavy lift, and here's the amount of staff time that it would need, and, you know, what professional are we going to hire or get to donate their time from KL or Tool or something like that. But any discussion on that?
I like. Well, I like the idea of it, but I do worry about the staff time and just like what is not getting done to make something like that happen. I think if you have a really high profile accident like what happened on Said Road, where there's a ton of public interest, that might be worthwhile since people want to know more about it, want to find out what the city is doing about it. But I'm always concerned about Ross's staff time.
Sure. Would a privately run thing be of interest?
I feel like the city has to be involved though, because
Well, you would invite them, but you wouldn't necessarily require them to organize the whole thing.
I also want to always be cognizant of us being very honest with the public about what can and can't be done about things, because sometimes when you have a public meeting, I'm just really aware that you don't want to have one that then there's actually no opportunity to respond to the feedback, because that's disingenuous, right? It's like, or be very
like, why did you ask me?
So like it's like if you're running this session and the city is going to do the same thing regardless, we have to at least make that clear what the mitigation is, and that it's based on best practices of transportation engineering, and it's all about being upfront with people And so I think that's also key too, because sometimes what people think they want in a mitigation is not what's actually recommended. And that's like one of the most challenging things.
That's why it's important to have pros involved.
It's the most challenging thing about dealing with the public on traffic is because what's intuitive is not necessarily what's actually gonna be helpful.
Right.
And I just never wanna be in a situation where we're misleading people.
In fact, the opposite is true because people generally want to be able to cruise through an area. And typically to make it safe, you want to slow them down and make it a pain in the butt. Just like the current way to get across Cyene Road on the Capital City State Trail is much harder. You've got 2 traffic signals and you have to skirt around a parking lot. Okay, all right.
But we should maybe do some communication around it, like it could be good to do a press release and say, hey, this happened.
PSA?
That could be like and I like the idea of doing the education, I think that's great, and just kind of tell people about, I don't know if it would be appropriate to talk about the situation that happened as the impetus, or if you would just focus on the, and I kind of leave that to staff to make that choice, but I think that is important to take those opportunities to educate the public.
All right, so I am getting the sense, at least from Gabrielle, and I would be interested in you three, that you are satisfied with the staff-led approach in this instance.
Yes.
Yes.
Others?
My observation of what we've just engaged in is that a month earlier there was a fatal accident at Seminole Highway and PD between a motorcycle and a car. And we said not a word about that. And perhaps because it's a bicycle, but we spend quite a bit of time talking about a bicycle here and talking about bicycle mitigation things. I think if you got 100 random people from the city of Fitchburg in a room and said, do bicyclists tend to stop at stop signs and intersections? The predominant answer would be no. And you can do all of these things, but bicyclists tend to behave this way anyways. And so I don't know what the solution is. I think that these are nice things to do. I think that somebody who tends to not stop at stop signs is not going to stop at a bigger stop sign. So I don't know what to do about that, but I also feel bad that we didn't say anything about a fatal accident a month earlier between 2 motor vehicles. And I think the current intersection at Seminole and PD is fraught with issues because of the angle of people's headlights. I was there just the other day and had the left turn green signal, and 3 cars, not 1, not 2, but 3, ran the red light straight at me while I was turning left from Seminole Highway.
With a green arrow.
With a green arrow. Yeah. I think the first guy went, the next 2 just followed him. And so anyway, we seem to be especially focused on bicycle things here, but there are other large traffic issues in the city of Fitchburg as well that should also warrant staff time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I was going to point out that we had a fatal crash on 14 today, and that was a motor vehicle. I don't know if 2 motor vehicles were involved or only 1.
There was 2.
There were 2.
Yeah.
So I think all of these are deserve our attention. I agree with you.
I think that's a good point. I think but I mean, we can have agenda items to discuss those in that same way where we discuss what happened and analyze what the situation was, like a crash studio, but just like we're the crash studio because this is the public committee that's tasked with that.
Well, we do have some pros and we do have some elected officials and we do have some neighbors. So
and we can tell people that we're having it on an agenda in a meeting and anyone can come and give public comment as a part of that discussion.
Idea. That's a great idea.
Just do it here.
And just for the record, I know some people know more about how we make these agendas than others, but the reason this is on the agenda is Steve requested we add it, and Steve, as chair, obviously has power of adding agenda items, but I'm more than happy to add agenda items if anyone else in this room or a resident wants to request them.
We go over the agenda, and if anybody has something that they want to discuss here related to transportation or transit, you can talk to either of us and we will be responsive. All right, let's move on to the South BRT design change. and this was another one that Steve asked about.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Isn't it?
So Ross gave us, as he rightly pointed out, he gave us a heads up on this. And at our last meeting, that this was being considered. And I frankly think it's great because of the potential loss of the on-road bike facilities with center running. However, I was more concerned with the fact that a member of the Madison Bikes Board alerted me to the fact that the Madison Transportation Commission, they used to have a transit commission and a disabled users commission and about 4 other ones, and they condensed them all into one. So they have a transportation commission, and they were approving this design change. And I pointed out to Ross, I said, we weren't asked, and this change is in Fitchburg. I think that they're still gonna be center running in Park Street because they're reconstructing the road anyway.
Correct.
But they are doing this as a cost-saving measure in face of the uncertainty of federal funds. And
So it's
again,
less expensive to do this than to do a center running?
Yes.
because all the curbs don't need to be moved, at least in areas where new turn pockets are required.
Is there anything to do with the public comment? Because I know that people, I just hear so many people say they hate the center running lanes too. I
Yeah,
don't know.
but you have, that's what you pointed out before, was that very often people have no idea things are new to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's roundabouts or center running BRTs or RRFBs, they say, I don't like it. It's new since I got driver's ed back in the 70s, and so.
So is it, how do we interpret what you learned as being the official reason specifically due to funding risks? Is that like a stated reason, or is that just?
Can I take this? Yes.
Yeah, can you just talk, actually, could you give us like an introduction about this?
Yes.
Staff
That
report,
would be,
please.
walk us through it.
So, this whole, since we started the BRT project a few years ago, the goal was always to have center running stations in Fitchburg. That's one of the things that when you're creating a BRT, a bus rapid transit network, it makes it feel more like a train system or something bigger and better than just city buses running around. It also can help with the efficiency of the buses, since you generally have the dedicated lane in the center, and then it's easier for them to make left turns because they're already in that left turn lane. And left turns are generally the most difficult turning movement for a bus to make, because they're huge and have to wait for a bigger gap in traffic than a car does. But a few months ago, Metro Transit approached me, first of all, since I am on the design team for this project, and asked, just what Fitchburg would think in general of switching from center running to side running. And for a lot of the reasons that we had discussed in this commission, some of them involving the bus/bike lanes on the outside of Fish Hatchery Road, and that buses already run on the outside of Fish Hatchery Road. I said, I think if there were good reasons for it, that Fitchburg could be okay with that. This then moved into a discussion between city administration and then the mayors of both Madison and Fitchburg. And then at the time, the new transportation director, Christoph, with the city of Madison. This was like his second week in the job that we had this discussion.
He's drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah. So basically, the Fitchburg portion of this project is pretty significantly over what Fitchburg has in its CIP. Over budget. as was designed with the center running stations. So we've been looking at things to, mitigate that. One of them was moving to side running.
I mean, it's over even with the intended grant fund,
Yes,
not over because you wouldn't get a grant.
correct. It's over. It would be over even with the 80% federal share. So moving to side running helps mitigate that because we don't have to reconstruct as much of Fish Hatchery Road, and basically we would have to do that because to fit the center running stations in the median, we then have to widen the median, which means moving all the lanes outward and having to widen the road on the outside, even though the station is going in the center. But with these side running stations, we can limit how much curb we have to move by putting them in between the path on Fish Hatchery Road or the sidewalk on the east side and the road. So, yeah. And as far as how this goes through councils and commissions, generally the Public Works Department doesn't need to get approval for engineering changes in a project, and that's kind of how we were approaching this change. My plan was to bring this to our January meeting. I got these plans on last Tuesday. Generally, our agenda for TTC is due to Dina to publish on Wednesday, so she can put together the agenda in the packet. So since I got them the day before, and generally we like to review these items before we put them on the agenda. I was going to put it in the January meeting, but as Steve said, it's going to the Madison Transportation, or it has already gone to the Madison Transportation Commission. So we decided to put it in this meeting as a discussion item.
So moving to the city limits and beyond, am I correct that at one point when we were talking about the center running, well, then once you crossed the belt line, it had to go back, was it still center running all the way up to Badger, or was it?
There were no stops in between Fitchburg and Badger.
Okay.
But it was going to travel in the right-hand lane because the bus had to turn right on Badger.
Okay. Yep. I remember that crossover, and that was something I just thought, unless even with the signal jump, maybe that that could be a little bit difficult having to cut across all those lanes on top of the interchange with the belt line, which is already a mess, especially at rush hour. So I am. And especially if it saves money and doesn't affect level of service or people getting to and from, I'm certainly in favor of it. I think it makes sense, and I think to some of the points that have been made before from some of the public haranguing of center running stations online and elsewhere. I think this is more what folks would be used to. So I think it would be less change, and as we've discussed, change is hard, and also, if we're spending less and ripping up less of Fish Hatchery Road for it, it's not, we're wasting money on those darn bus riders. When are we going to focus on other things? So I think for the folks who will never use it, and will frequently complain about it, frankly, I think it gives them one less thing to complain about, which I'm happy about.
People are used to not driving in that left or that right lane anyway. People are pretty good about that in Fitchburg.
And now they're having to make that adjustment in Mineral Point where they have to have to ride in the far right lane where they're like, I'm afraid I'm going to be hit by a bus over here.
Yeah, people aren't used to it, so this would be definitely easier for people to adjust to.
Yeah, and then one other thing that I didn't say earlier that I want to, this does double the number of stations because you have one on, you know, the northbound side of the road and one on the southbound side of the road. But the stations cost basically the same or even a little less in some of the cases than the one center running station because they're smaller stations and you have to, you know, build less concrete and stuff going up to them because you generally already have a sidewalk and a path behind them.
So the two stations cost less than the one in the center,
It's
typically.
on average, I'd say it's the same. I
It's a
think
wash.
on one of these sets it's less, but yeah.
And then there's a local stop on there, so that would be for like the 75, which would still go down Fish Hatch. So
Yes.
the station, so essentially then we're providing that additional shelter for that local route in addition to the BRT. So kind of getting extra money's worth out of it for that local route.
Yeah, so generally, yeah, there won't like be a bus shelter here or anything, but yeah, it'll just be a bus pad for the local buses.
And they can wait in the heated shelter
Yeah.
If they want.
until they see their bus.
So forgive me for oversimplifying, because I'm about to. Today we have side lane running buses, and today they're flex buses that are electric. And today they travel basically the same route that they would travel in BRT land.
Yep.
So what prevents us from taking our magic wand and waving it over the exact buses and routes that we have today and saying, now you're BRT, and not spending any money?
Nothing except for it would not be an industry accepted definition of BRT.
Sure, so as soon as it hits Fitchburg, it just, changes to bus B, and there you go.
But one of the
In
things
other words, I
that
mean,
is
like,
different,
I'm trying to gain the benefit of this.
Spending money on those
one of the things that you do with BRT is that you try to make these other changes like off bus payment that speed them.
They already have that.
But they don't have the same stopping distance. So the conventional bus stops are about twice as many per mile. And so if you are putting in queue jumps and electronic kiosks saying when the bus arrival times are and other kind of amenities, then that's kind of the payback for having to walk a little farther. And having to walk a little farther and eliminating half the stops is one of the things that makes the bus goes faster.
Is this how you explain to your average Fitchburg citizen why this is worth the expenditure that it's going to cost to basically run the buses the same as they are now? If they're in the right-hand lane, they're gonna be more interfering with right-hand turning traffic. And I don't know if they get to jump signals in the right lane like they do in the left lane. Perhaps there's some engineering solution to doing that. But it seems like the rate at which they'll be able to travel in the city of Fitchburg will be very close to the rate that they travel in Fitchburg today.
It will still be 15-minute service, which is what we have now.
Yeah. So we'll have nicer stations.
Something else to consider too is the safer crossings for folks getting to the stations on either side. I was talking to a local business owner at this intersection, High Ridge and Fish Hatch, about what it's like to.
Cleaners guy?
It was not, but it was about, you're crossing 4 lanes on the eastbound side there, that'd be northbound side, and then on the southbound side, you're crossing another 3 lanes. And people are going 40 miles an hour, and there's really no safe way to do that. So we're also getting some additional pedestrian safety for the folks who are getting to and from the buses, which would help get more people to ride the bus because they know that they can get across the street safer.
As long as that's the direction you want to ride.
No, he's talking about the fact that whether you're on your way there or back, one of those 2 ways, you're gonna have to cross the street. And whether center running or side running, you're gonna have to cross all 7 lanes. But with BRT, with this modification, you'll get a traffic signal at High Ridge Trail, and you don't have one now.
And you have to have the station at Trevorton Pike, because that's the
Charger.
charger.
Yep. That one's still that one was started as side running and it's still side running.
Yeah,
So
'cause it's
that
only
one
the
I
one
don't have
stop.
on this plan set.
Yeah.
So, Ross, are there any significant changes to the locations of stations or left turn restrictions or other things like that that come with going with side running?
Yes. At this intersection specifically, like we've stated, we're getting a traffic signal, which we don't currently have at High Ridge. And in the center running version of this, we were going to eliminate the northbound left from Fish Hatchery onto High Ridge. And now we don't have any reason to eliminate that left. So it will be allowed. So this will be a full service intersection. You can go any direction you want out of any approach. We're getting rid of this pork chop island here, which that was always the plan, even with the center running. So,
Where's the crosswalk?
the crosswalk will be here.
This doesn't show paint, but it shows the ramps and detectable warnings.
And right now, I think there's only paint on one of the side. Yeah,
On the north side. So this is the north side of the same intersection. High Ridge is over here somewhere. So this is the northbound stop.
So they're not directly opposite one another.
No, generally it's easier to have the stop at the far side of the street. You get the bus past the light and then it stops. There's some reasons to do it other ways. You know, if you have geometric restrictions in one spot or whatever, but.
At Greenway Cross, Ross, I asked if the...
Can we maybe go through these south to north?
Sure, absolutely.
That we don't miss any. So this is the Post Road one. It's very, very similar to High Ridge. So any questions about this?
Can still, both plans have left turns from northbound into Fitchburg Ridge?
Yep. No changes there. This intersection is already signalized, so no real changes. This is the northbound far side stop. So again, very similar to the High Ridge stop. All right, now we're at Greenway Cross. So these are closer to directly across the street from each other, just because we really don't want to put one of these on the north side of Greenway Cross because there's nothing there. It's very hostile pedestrian environment right next to the belt line. So on this side, this is really one of our kind of choke points with the path. This is one of really the only downsides to going side running infrastructure wise. This path needs to get cut from 10 feet to 8 feet to fit this station in. So that's not ideal. We really like our 10-foot paths in Fitchburg. But we do have 8-foot paths in other parts of the city.
Especially when it's busy, you know, like that. So, can you go to the far left of that, or far right edge of that image? That crosswalk, I was saying, right now it's canted across at an angle. And previously with the center running,
I'm gonna just go to it on Google Maps. It's easier to see.
yeah, previously with the center running, the argument was that couldn't really, you know, use your mouse. I thought that if the crosswalk came straight across like this and the stop bar were here, that it would be a shorter crossing distance for pedestrians. Does the side running allow you to do that now, or are there still reasons not to do that?
So there are still basically the same reasons not to do it. One reason that we couldn't do it with the center running is because the station was up pretty
In the
close to
way.
that crosswalk and in the way. But if we pulled the crosswalk that far south on this northbound side, cars would be stopping, you know, really, really far from the light on the other side. So we would, I mean, at a minimum, you'd have to adjust your clearance times for the traffic signal, which isn't the end of the world. But it's generally best to have your crosswalk, you know, as close to the actual intersection as possible. And if we moved it back, we would be, you know, several dozen feet from that corner.
And if somebody's trying to make a right turn onto Greenway Cross, I mean, it's just like everything else. You're supposed to stop behind the stop bar, and then you're supposed to creep up and stop again if you can't see. You know, you're supposed to do the double stop like we all learned in driver's ed, and how many folks actually do it. They go up as far as they need to. So, you know, it could be creating
Unfortunately, we
conflicts.
at least have a center island there.
Would the bus be able, would it get a priority green, like would all the other lanes stay red while the bus went through?
It certainly could. We have not gotten to that level of detail with this stop in particular yet.
Because
WSDOT generally doesn't like that idea at this location because of how it interacts with the Beltline ramps.
Turning cars
Yeah.
too,
So,
might not be first in the queue
right.
most of the time.
Oh, right.
It's probably gonna be behind turning cars.
Would it have the lane to itself, or would the cars that are intending to go on the Beltline or turn right on Greenway still?
So here it would not be in a bus only lane. This lane is, right now, it's a through and right lane that the bus just kind of uses. You can see it switches somewhere around here from a bus only lane into a general travel lane.
You'd have a really hard time changing that behavior too.
Yeah, and that's gonna stay the same. It's gonna stay marked the same as a
Mixed
through and
traffic.
right lane, mixed traffic, yep.
But you're right, there's gonna be, a lot of times the bus is not gonna be
Yeah,
at its station, it's gonna be waiting for the light to cycle.
doesn't seem feasible.
Correct. One thing with the northbound station here, there's a very nice oak tree on this side. If you know where the Wisconsin Energy Services building is, it's really the only nice tree on Fish Hatchery Road. So we are going to try to save this tree, but this is the exact right spot for the station, so it's going to be difficult. We've got two separate proposals for this station. Basically, this one just moves it to the north to get less of the station in this tree critical root zone. So just FYI, that's something we might see a change in. There's some issues with this design though. It pushes the local stop up to the other side of this driveway and on the other side of this bump out. So it kind of complicates the design a little bit. But we're also
Is that the only place where the local stop is not aligned with the bus rapid transit?
in this alternative, yeah, it would be.
Cause that could get confusing. I remember
Yep.
the first time I was on bus rapid transit, I definitely got on the wrong bus, cause I was like, oh no, I meant to take the 75. I'm on the wrong bus.
Is that the 75 stop there?
I'm not sure if the 75 stops here now.
Yeah, cause they don't have as many stops.
Yeah, I don't, it might stop at this one, but I'm not sure if it stops at the other
This
ones.
would stop there.
It's been a while.
It's also like if, you know, they need to fill in with a bus, with a short bus,
Oh, I
they
see.
can do that with those stops too. So it's kind of a backup thing
I see.
as well.
So it might not actually be a
Yeah.
regularly used stop.
Yeah. So yeah, we're also looking at stuff like Silva cells, which I'm not going to go into detail with, but if you have questions, you can ask me after for this tree. So yeah, those are kind of our side running stations.
How many B stops are there today in Fitchburg that we're going down to basically 3?
So we'll be going to 5. So there will be one at Triverton Pike and McKee,
Yes.
There'll be one at Cahill, Maine, and then there will be these 3.
Fish hatchery.
Yeah, Fish
Show the
hatchery.
Cahill Maine one?
So those 2 stops did not change. I've presented those plans before.
Okay.
We have them. I can show you them. I just didn't include them in this
It
packet
wasn't
because they
center
weren't
running
changing.
before.
So the Cahill, Maine was center running and is still center running.
Yep.
The Chiverton Pike was always side running and is still side running.
Because it's just one direction.
Yep, and it's the
No
charger.
change. So anyway, I was asking about this because of the kind of governance thing, and my question was, is this something the council would vote on and that would be referred to us for recommendation? Or are we just gonna be informed about it after staff decides or after Madison decides, like the D1 change? And do you have any thoughts on that?
So this change is not planned to be referred out at council.
Okay, or voted on
'cause
by
we're-
council?
Right, this staff is viewing this as an engineering change within the project, and it's not impacting the level of service.
That's how I think about it too. I mean, if we were adding cost, that would be a different thing for me. That would be like, yeah, like that. But I think in that case, staff would definitely bring it because we would, or we'd at least have to consider it as part of the CIP update.
Right, exactly.
But in this case, it feels like it's what makes the most sense.
And we are not Madison, but why is Madison Transportation and Madison Council voting on this?
That is a good question. Their transportation commission generally votes more on what I would call engineering decisions.
Okay. And in Fitchburg?
Yes, that's a fair point. This is a Madison project.
What changes
that
happen in Madison?
So with this vote, no changes happened in Madison. Their transportation
They're only
commission.
voting on
They
the
only
change
vote
in
on Fitchburg.
Fitchburg change, yeah. And so,
They've already voted.
Can we rate them a strongly worded?
I would write them a strongly worded letter that said, what are you doing here?
So Metro Transit did ask for
For staff recommendation.
for basically Fitchburg to approve this change.
You
and-
were brought in.
Yes, yeah.
And did anyone at Madison vote against it?
That I don't know.
Like, how did they make a decision whether to vote yes or no?
I don't know.
Staff recommendation.
Okay, well, that was the thing that rankled me, was that they were voting on a Fitchburg only change. And they probably also voted on the D1 change.
They did.
In fairness, that also involved Madison.
Yeah.
And Verona, I don't know if Verona voted on it, but my question was about the governance thing, and I'm kind of sensitive to, local control and what kind of things that we should have oversight over, or at least make recommendations on.
And I will say for the D2 change, I have said to Metro Transit that I was unhappy with how that happened and felt that I should have been better informed and then better able to inform our council and
don't do it again.
TTC. Yep, and their new transportation director was very apologetic about how that happened. That happened before he got there, so take that for what it's worth.
It's a lot easier to apologize for things that it's not your fault.
Just for the,
This is Madison city staff that are doing these engineering revisions, right?
This is a consultant.
When there are additional consulting hours to make these drawing changes, does Fitchburg pay for that? How is the consultant paid?
So the design for this is it's worked into our contract with Metro Transit. It's just kind of a cost that Metro Transit is taking on, and it's covered. Fitchburg is paying for it through our contract, but not specifically, if that makes sense.
So when they incur more hours, it doesn't add cost that
Correct.
we didn't plan for? Okay.
They are getting paid for it. The consultant residents getting paid for
Oh,
that.
sure,
but
yeah.
They don't work for
That was
free.
one of, yeah, we were all worried about.
Especially Ariel.
Rick, just to close the loop on, Transportation Commission in Madison, their minutes aren't up yet, so I couldn't see the vote total on that, so.
Oh, okay. But they would also have recordings, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, okay. I wonder if they wondered why they were voting on it.
No, it's a really good question. I mean, it does seem kind of absurd that it was only changes in Fitchburg.
Okay,
I'm just
appreciate you bringing
curious.
this forward, Russ. Go
I'm just
ahead.
curious, what was their original argument for having it center running? Like, why didn't they look at this option originally?
So basically, in like all the design guides for BRT, center running is like a stated design goal. So that's kind of how it started off.
And they were, when you're putting together the original plans, you're less worried about money and more just concerned about what it is that your goals are, and then you start refining things when costs get out of control.
On a broad brush, just thumb in the air, what percentage does our cost drop by doing this?
So that is a good question that I'm not going to have a good answer for. So Fitchburg's CIP estimate for this project was developed based on estimates for east-west BRT. So that was just the time that we were coming up with how much money we were going to put in our CIP for the BRT project. They didn't have final construction costs for east-west BRT yet. Final construction costs were higher than the estimates, and that's part of why our CIP number is basically too low for the center running.
Insufficient for that.
Right.
And the CIP number that we had included both changes to the road work itself as well as the stations.
Yes. Yes. And then there's also we've kind of danced around this, but we're kind of expecting to get less federal funding for this than we were expecting 2 or 3 years ago. So that's another reason we're trying to cut costs, is to get ahead of that. So basically, we were expecting an 80% federal share because that was kind of what the Biden administration was funding BRT projects at, was 80% federal, 20% local.
Right.
Right now, the federal administration is more on the 50-50 end of things for the transportation projects that they are funding. So,
Unless it's for automobiles.
I guess I'm still missing the impetus where they decided, I mean, they had some conversation with you, but they went down this path of doing this, but just in Fitchburg, to reduce the overall cost of the project, but the cost that's our portion of it? I'm kind of not getting how.
It's kind of a couple things coming together. Yeah, like our CIP was basically based on an old estimate.
Yes.
And fish hatchery was the spot in the project that you could save the most money by going to side running. Because Park Street, you don't save any money by going to side running because they're tearing up all of Park Street anyway and fully reconstructing it.
So the cost benefit does come to us ultimately. 'Cause
Right.
We're paying for that contribution to the project.
Yeah, that's basically because we just reconstructed Fish Hatchery Road 5 years ago.
Yeah.
In a fully modern, great way.
Which is why the vote doesn't actually bother me that much. 'Cause it's like, it's to help us. It's
Right.
not,
Okay.
So it's kind of two separate things that came together in this case. So, and we almost have good estimates, construction estimates for this. So once I have those, I will share those as well. We're just not at that point in the design yet.
So what point are we at the design? Are we 30, 60?
So
It's complicated.
52.75?
the rest of the project, besides these stations that I've just shown you, is at the 60% phase.
Which is required for our federal transit
Correct.
grant.
That's a milestone for the grant. These stations are at the 30% phase, basically.
Okay.
So we're gonna submit the old plan for the 60% to stay on track and then
Yes.
revise it.
Yes, it's gonna be a plan revision instead of delaying,
Okay.
so. But the
Okay.
FTA has said that that's an okay thing to do.
So we're gonna hear back from you when we get maybe 60% plans or construction estimates or other big changes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We should try to get through our reports here quickly as the time grows late. So we are, let's see, council first. Who's gonna report from council? Gabriella or?
I
No,
can
you're
keep
gonna
it really
report.
short.
Good.
Just obviously this budget passed on Tuesday, which included the funding for transit expansion. Very excited about that.
The extension of the B down to
Yes.
Turnpike, right? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
And of course, we had the ribbon cutting today for Sain Road. Just want to recognize, as has been mentioned before, we had a fatal crash on Highway 14 at Lacey today, and then just before our meeting here as well, we also had a rollover crash on East Sherrill and Agora. So just reminders of why it's important that we design our roads in a way that mitigates human error and the importance of moving forward with Vision Zero. And one personal note, Ross and I attended the CARP-C Greater Madison MPO Fall Forum a couple weeks ago, so got to hear a little bit more about, in a nutshell, the ways that we work across municipal boundaries to better solve some of the collective network issues and opportunities that we share, because obviously we drive across city lines, we take the bus across city lines, we bike across city lines.
And walk across it. Just to add to what you said, I thought that the mayor did a very nice job pitching Vision Zero at the presentation today. Gabriella, what happened at the,
So we are in the process of two minor comp plan amendments. They passed plan, but they're going to council on December 9th. The first was finally, we've talked about this with the past, but it would be finally creating a new medium high density land use category to avoid that problem of jumping from the high of 9 units to anchor to the high being unlimited, having something in the middle. So if council passes that December 9th, that will go into effect. And can start being used. And then the other minor comp plan amendment is to change the future land use off of the back side of the property at Jamestown Quarry, which is on McKee and Fitchrona, where those four businesses are going in currently. There is a space behind that for commercial, but we made it very clear as a council that we wanted to see more housing, and so the developer that's doing that Texas wraparound that's behind the Wingbrick Quarry right now, they're proposing another high density residential project, upwards of 300 market rate apartments. And so it's to change the future land use to high density to accommodate that. Right now it's medium density residential, and townhomes is not economically feasible for any housing developer at this point. They said they will not build them. It's not, that developer loves building townhouses, so it's just not, but anyway, so that's
good.
That's
More
just the future
customers.
land use, yeah. And then, yes, so the JT Klein is moving forward with the project on Nesbitt, it was originally a senior living facility. Now it's actually a mix of, one of the buildings is gonna be affordable senior units, 80 units of affordable, and then the building 2 is gonna be 100 units of market rate, no age restriction. But that's where there was a bus stop right behind it before they changed the D route. They're aware that has changed, but it should still be qualified for.
We'll try to get it back for them.
Yeah, we'll work on that. But that is moving forward. They got a ton of funding. I think they got WIDA and I think LIHTC funding for it. We passed a erosion control stormwater management permit for Thermo Fisher. They're going to be doing some dirt. They're going to put a ton of dirt from projects onto that site. It's on the bike path right off of McKee Road, opposite the bike path from where they're going to put the YMCA in. It's this long strip of land, and so they're going to clear some of the trees. They're going to fill with dirt, clean fill, and then finish it off as a native prairie. So they got that, and then there was an early issue of permits for the Lido Apartments, which is in Uptown. It's a really beautiful project right next to the Life Point, that new UW Health Life Point rehabilitation facility. It's got townhomes that wrap around the front, and it's a pilot program for workforce housing and market rate. So they're reserving, I think it's 10%?
10%.
Apartments for market rate, for affordable homes in the 30 to 80% area median income. It's a beautiful building. And then the department is cleaning up the neighborhood plans after the final approval, and they are working on the RFP for the comp plan update. And that's Plan Commission.
Okay. Anything from Mike and Ped, Ross?
I did not attend the last one.
Yep. Do you know what the status is of the Bike and Ped plan? We know that the consultant used up all the hours and it got back put onto staff to finish it.
Yeah.
And it appears to be behind schedule. Can we say any more?
It is behind schedule. I believe that Phil is finishing final updates and kind of getting it reviewed by planning and public works staff, and then it's going to refer it out at council.
And it's going only to Bike and Ped, right?
I believe that's true.
All right. Any questions on Bike and Ped or the other reports? So we are funded for 10 meetings a year. So we have had 10, counting today. So we will not meet next month. Our next meeting will be January 8th. Are there any other announcements?
I just wanted to ask a question at some point. I don't know what January would be the right time. I think that's up to you, Ross, but I would love for us to have a presentation about what's coming for the bus route update after the funding, now that the funding is secured in the budget. And I don't know if that would involve Metro or not, but I think it would be good to just have a presentation to be like, here's what's coming, and then also estimates about when we might actually see it implemented.
We could have something, January or February. I'll see when I can get all that information together.
This is the time of year when Public Works is furiously putting together proposals to get bids for the winter for the following construction seasons, but maybe those will be behind you in February.
Well, since I heard it might not get implemented till like maybe August at the earliest.
That's the
target.
We have some time, but I think we should celebrate that it's coming and have a way to something to share with the public about what it is.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I had an idea for a future agenda item. Madison does like year-end traffic safety discussions where they kind of review crash data from the year. I was wondering if that's something you guys would be interested in.
Yes, please.
All right. Steve and I can kind of talk offline about what shape that should take. But
Sounds good. And you can find out what they do and bring that to our discussion. All right then.
Madison crash data.
Let's have a resolution for some freeway through the isthmus. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? We are adjourned. Everybody have a nice holiday week.